Some scary moments for a mail carrier in Southern California. Her encounter with suspected thieves caught on camera. And it's incidents such as this one that has letter carriers across the country calling for help. Good evening. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Jana Katsuyama. We have seen multiple rallies pop up over the past few months with mail carriers demanding that the United States Postal Service do more to protect employees from crime. Fox 11's Christy Fajardo shows us the crime that unfolded this week in Orange County.
Hey, no.
It's a social media video that is now evidence in a criminal case. On it, a postal worker is hit by alleged mail thieves trying to escape. She falls on the ground, but gets back up. It happened this past Tuesday at the post office on East Chapman in Fullerton, and customers tell us they've had items stolen here before.
I kept asking, we don't know where it is, don't know where it is. He finally told me, the manager here, he goes, we had some stuff stolen off the dock.
The U.S. Postal Inspector didn't answer our questions about past thefts at the facility, but Fullerton police say they spotted the car in this video and arrested 3 people inside. And when they searched the car, they found mail. Just months ago, this video of a postal carrier in San Francisco being confronted by thieves also went viral. Last year, the U.S. Postal Service acknowledged carrier robberies were on the rise, numbering over 300 in the first half of 2023. Theft from receptacles like blue collection boxes was also up, the agency saying it was doubling down on efforts to keep the mail safe. Still at the Fullerton facility, we spotted mail on the dock, and at times the gate was left open, at the very same parking lot that was robbed just days ago.
Wow, that's crazy. It's California has become a lawless place.
Again, that was Fox 11's Christy Fajardo reporting. The National Association of Letter Carriers says that since 2020, more than 2,000 letter carriers have been victims of violent crimes. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell reportedly informed Senate Republicans today that former President Donald Trump does not want Congress to reach a border security agreement with Democrats. Republican Senator Mitt Romney of Utah called that shocking and had this reaction.
He is inclined to listen to what former President Trump wants. And former President Trump has indicated to senators that he does not want us to solve the problem at the border. He wants to lay the blame for the border at Biden. And the idea that someone running for president would say, please hurt the country so I can blame my opponent and help my politics is a shocking development.
Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma also spoke out on the state of negotiations.
I don't agree on that, and the reason I don't agree on that is, one, we have a constitutional responsibility to be able to protect the country and its safety. The things that are in this bill, Donald Trump would actually want to be able to have as president on this.
So far, Senate negotiators have not revealed any details of what a potential border security funding package might look like.
We have the outlines of a deal. We've had it for several days. It's 90+% written.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer expects negotiations could continue through the weekend. Vice President Kamala Harris was in California today for a meeting in Sacramento with Democratic leaders. Harris said the Biden administration has...
You've got a former president who openly applauds dictators and has pretty explicitly suggests that that's the role that he intends to take on if reelected, who openly has talked about an intention to weaponize the Department of Justice.
That was Kamala Harris as she addressed the 2024 presidential election, saying it will be existential for the future of the U.S. She also mentioned that California is set to receive $33 billion from the president's infrastructure bill. The vice president attended a Biden campaign fundraiser with ticket prices that range between $5,000 and $50,000. She will campaign in Las Vegas Saturday and then bring her, quote, Fight for Reproductive Freedoms tour to San Jose on Monday. San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria says he spoke with Vice President Harris on the phone and requested her help in securing federal aid to help the city recover from Monday's devastating flash floods. The San Diego mayor said Harris expressed concern for the flood victims and had a desire to help communities rebuild. California Governor Gavin Newsom has proclaimed a state of emergency in San Diego and Ventura counties. Fox 5's Sarah Alegre spoke with the flood victims who say they need all the help they can get.
I gotta do it for my kids.
A community in ruins brings neighbors arm in arm as their reality begins to settle in.
We're all together. We should all unite, you know, do this time. It's time.
The buckled floors, piles of mud, and destroyed furniture.
Everything, God, everything.
It's all reminders for Jerry Hernandez of a devastating loss of an old way of life.
Yeah, we're gonna make it, Jerry. We're gonna make it.
Now, days later, with the help of his cane, Jerry chugs along the remnants of his home, bad back and all, recalling the moments he was waist deep in contaminated water.
I was just standing in the ice cold water, freezing, hurting. I couldn't move.
It was so high, people were forced to climb on roofs, and stuck inside one home was a 72-year-old woman, disabled and diagnosed with bone cancer.
I love her mom. She's like my mom. I lost my mom to cancer.
Michelle Sherman grew up here, and now she and her neighbor Robin are taking a walk inside what's left of the house she once knew.
You got senior citizens like this lady who's disabled, can't stay there, and then they can't live in this house. It smells.
Along with the mess are leftover signs of a rescue.
They had to give her tetanus shots and probably antibiotics and all kind of stuff.
It was Jerry's daughter who stepped in, cutting her feet on this glass, sending both women to the hospital.
Where's the people that works this district? I haven't seen none of them. We haven't seen none of them. Nobody have. But you got people going around here giving out cards asking us, do they want to sell their homes?
And as city crews collect destroyed items, ones that once held so much meaning, some residents are left with feelings of neglect.
Just because, like I said, we live in the ghetto, don't put us in the bottom. Don't. No, it's not right. They know how this area gets. So it's time for them to step it up and do something as soon as possible.
Now, a powerful remnant of this storm is the sheer amount of mud that we're seeing, some of it inside people's homes. A very powerful visual, hard for me to walk through even at this moment. Now, a lot of the people I talked to referred to a storm that hit back in 2018 wasn't as bad, but still a very powerful moment just years ago. And so, yeah, while they're holding on to hope today, they're also demanding answers. For now, that's the very latest here from South Crest. Sarah Alegre, Fox 5 News.
In Las Vegas today, 4 high school students pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder in the fatal beating of another student. The teens were indicted by a grand jury last week in the death of 17-year-old Jonathan Lewis Jr. A total of 9 students were arrested following the deadly beating that happened November 1st near Rancho High School. The 5 other teens are awaiting separate hearings. Today in Orange County, a jury found a man guilty of second-degree murder in a road rage shooting that killed a 6-year-old boy. 6-year-old Aiden Leos was shot and killed in May of 2021 while riding in the back of his mother's car on their way to his kindergarten. Prosecutors say 26-year-old Marcus Anthony Aries opened fire after the boy's mother made a rude gesture for cutting her off on the freeway.
Mr. Aries is looking at 40 years to life. His life is over. And it's because he took the life of this precious, innocent little boy through no fault of his own.
The defendant's girlfriend, Winnie Lee, is being charged as an accessory after the fact for driving the car during the shooting. In Alaska, state troopers say a woman and 5 children were killed in a house fire. This happened in a small rural village about 500 miles northwest of Anchorage. The fire started around 6 a.m. yesterday, and authorities say it appears the fire started near a stove that was reportedly in poor condition. The state troopers say the children were between the ages of 9 and 16. An Arizona man never expected his cell phone would become a lifeline. Coming up, he explains how the device worked on its own to help get him to safety. And we're learning a little more about plans to relocate one of the West's Major League Baseball teams. Ahead, what the A's owner says it will take to set up shop in Las Vegas.
And in weather, here's our live camera up in Seattle. Current temperature of 52 degrees, and the Pacific Northwest gets the bulk of the heavy rainfall over the next few days. We'll talk more about the forecast coming up.
The Oakland A's owner says he hopes moving the team to Las Vegas will help the A's get through what he is calling a rebuilding period. John Fisher talked about plans for the move last night during a meeting of Las Vegas business leaders. He did not share any new renderings of a potential Las Vegas ballpark. He says he estimates the stadium would cost $1.5 billion.
That will be funded mostly with equity from my family. We'd actually like to, consider raising capital, especially from local investors, because we think that that creates a connection to the community that has, we've seen that with a lot of other teams, been a really successful thing, and with a little bit of debt.
The A's were expected to reveal new ballpark renderings weeks ago, but that celebratory reveal was postponed out of respect for 2 Nevada state troopers who were killed in a hit-and-run crash just days before the scheduled reveal. The team has not set a new date for those renderings to go public. We have just days to go before a game that could send the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. Fox 10's Lauren Clark spoke to people at one high school in Arizona who say they feel like they have a very special connection with Niners quarterback Brock Purdy.
At Perry High School in Gilbert, the energy for next weekend's NFC Championship football game is pretty high.
It's always Purdy time at Puma Nation.
Cheering on 49ers quarterback and former Perry Puma, Brock Purdy.
He was grounded all the time. He was always talking about his faith. He was always talking about his family. Never wavered ever from who he is.
A character.
No matter when he was a student here, he worked just as hard in the classroom as he did on the field.
That principal, Heather Patterson, says helped propel him from Friday Night Lights on this field to one of the biggest games in the sport.
Everything that you see in social media and everything that you see from the news clips and after games and before games and how he treats fans is how he treats his family and how he treats his community.
At Perry, Purdy played football and was involved with the Faith Group Fellowship of Christian Athletes. After going to Iowa State, he became Mr. Irrelevant, the final draft pick of 2022. But that never intercepted his goals. Now he's focused on a trip to the 2024 Super Bowl. The grit and hard work ethic of the 2018 graduate still making an impact on the student body.
It's pretty cool to kind of be a part of what he was a part of.
Passing on a legacy with current students like football players Cale Snyder and Diesel Taylor.
Great that we get the opportunity to live up to his expectations.
A touchdown for current head coach Joseph Ortiz.
I think it motivates our kids that they get, someone from their school made it, and it's going to motivate them to work harder, and hopefully they can try and get to that point as well.
Who says the starting QB never forgets where he came from.
He throws with our kids when he's here. He's just a great person to be around, and he's a great ambassador for the Perry community.
A community that will always have his back.
We're going to support Brock all the time, anytime, all day, every day.
And that was Fox 10's Lauren Clark reporting. The 49ers are using social media to build up excitement to this weekend's NFC Championship game. Earlier today, they posted video of wide receiver Deebo Samuel returning to practice after suffering a previous shoulder injury. Well, the Federal Trade Commission is investigating partnerships and investments made by some of the biggest tech companies and artificial intelligence startups. The FTC said today that orders were sent to companies involved in 3 separate multi-billion-dollar investments. Those companies include Microsoft and OpenAI, Amazon, Google, and Anthropic. Agency officials say the purpose is to get a better understanding of the relationships and their impact on competition.
Well, in weather, what we're watching actually the development of an atmospheric river offshore here, first impacting the Pacific Northwest. So this will kind of be a developing weather headline over the next several days, not only up in the Pacific Northwest, but for portions of California. So you can see that narrow band of moisture across the entire Pacific model to hit Portland and Seattle. So they have a lot of rain in their forecast for tomorrow, into the weekend, and possibly into next week. And we'll see how this changes as it eventually moves to the south. So as a result, as you can see here with the rainfall projections, the bulk of the action is focused up in Portland and Seattle. This is just as we head into through Saturday afternoon, through Saturday, and for the first half of Sunday. Those numbers could go up, will likely go up into next week. So that bears a lot of watching. As you can see right now, the development of the first phase, this atmospheric river just offshore, is becoming closer right now for Portland and Seattle. A lot of moisture in the Pacific, so that will lead to a soggy Friday. This was the scene today in Seattle, as you can see, with some cloud cover, temperatures in the lower 50s. In San Francisco, things cleared out nicely after some patchy fog this morning. Temperature of 60 degrees. And then in Southern California, a few drops on the camera lens for LAX. Temperatures in the mid-60s, 66 degrees today. So current numbers, as you can see across the board, it is 50 in Seattle. It is 55 in San Francisco. Las Vegas checking in 56. And Phoenix reporting 60 degrees at last check. As we show you the forecast model, clearly it's picking up on the rainfall for this portion of the West Coast, as you can see here up in Oregon and up in Washington. Now, there's the possibility of some rain showers moving into Northern California. A slight chance for San Francisco as we take this forecast model into Sunday. It is dry and mild for Los Angeles and in Phoenix. So here's the breakdown for tomorrow. For your Friday, more rain. There's that system offshore here, so 40s up here. Some clouds for San Francisco, but it's a mild pattern, so 60s there. Down in Southern California, temperatures in the 60s. Even LA could be right around 70 degrees tomorrow afternoon. And it looks like the chance of some rain and snow out toward Denver. So it's all kind of reflected in the three-day panels. You can see multiple rain clouds for Seattle Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The slight chance of a shower for San Francisco on Saturday. It is mild in Southern California and even out toward Phoenix. Temperatures eventually back up into the mid to upper 70s, maybe flirting with 80 degrees. But we'll definitely have to keep an eye on those changes in the Pacific, because we could be really bumping up the rainfall potential and the rainfall rates for portions of California into next week. Jenna.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark. Well, some lawmakers in Washington state want to prevent cities from installing so-called hostile architecture. Fox 13's Lauren Donovan shows us how they're working to limit the creation of public spaces that are designed to keep homeless people away.
I was dismayed, as I think many were, when the news broke recently that $700,000 had been spent on hostile architecture by the Washington State Department of Transportation.
When she says hostile architecture, she's talking about these massive boulders blanketing the side of I-5 in Thurston County.
A staggering $700,000 has been invested in boulders. Come on, we're spending money on rocks. Well, it could be housing people.
It's not just the state right-of-ways. More rocks were dropped right outside a Puyallup Resource Center for the homeless, costing the city $7,000 taxpayer dollars.
I do feel like it is what Washington's switching to.
Online, the debate over the sanctity of these stones has got people in an absolute uproar. Critics argue use those funds to provide shelter. But supporters think this tactic is a game changer. They're saying, good, keep them rocks coming. Right now in Olympia, state lawmakers are considering legislation.
The bill before you today prohibits cities, towns, and counties from the installation or construction of any hostile architectural elements designed to restrict the use of public space by people experiencing homelessness.
In committee, some senators pointed out Senate Bill 6231 could have some benefits.
If you're that business and folks are there, like, what are the potential impacts to the business?
But low-income housing advocates argue not only does it squander funds, it's inhumane, and there's got to be another solution that gets to the root cause of the homelessness crisis.
Instead of treating people like pigeons that you want to make disappear, it's a misuse of precious funds at a time when we have a severe shortage of homelessness services.
That was Fox 13's Lauren Donovan reporting, and the proposed bill would not prohibit the state of Washington from installing those so-called hostile architecture.
You know, my phone, to my knowledge, was the first phone call that 911 had received.
A motorcycle crash victim wants iPhone users to take his advice. Coming up, why he thinks his phone was set up to help save his life. And see how rescue teams in Hawaii worked for hours to get a dog out of a tough spot. A coalition of tribal members in eastern Nevada are calling on the federal government to protect the memory of their ancestors who were killed by soldiers during a massacre in the 1800s. The tribal members want the Basa Wabi site to be named a national monument. This would allow the Park Service to protect the 40 square miles of land northwest of Great Basin National Park. That is where hundreds of Native people were killed by federal soldiers. Tribal members believe the spirits of the dead live on in the trees. Arizona-based Lucid Motors is making a move that it thinks will shake up the EV market. It announced yesterday it plans to expand its Casa Grande facility from 800,000 square feet to nearly 4 million square feet. The company also unveiled its first electric SUV. The Gravity has 3 rows of seats, and it's expected to hit the market by the end of the year.
It's going to be the most advanced electric SUV in the world that there's ever been, with over 440 miles range.
Lucid Motors has not revealed the cost of that Gravity EV. An Arizona man says that his iPhone helped save his life. Fox 10's Lindsay Ragas spoke to him about how the phone took action after he crashed his motorcycle.
In September, Michael Brennan retired from the Air Force after serving for 20 years. Less than a month later, his wife's worst nightmare came true.
I'd sent that text, said, hey, I'm on my way home, and then yeah, she knows what happened next.
Sheena Brennan says her husband was riding his motorcycle at the intersection of West Queen Creek and Alma School roads. A driver made a left on a flashing yellow light at the same time her husband was entering the intersection in the opposite direction. He tried to avoid her car but couldn't.
Yeah, he doesn't remember any of it, but I got the text at 5:13 that said, headed home, babe, and then at 5:20 I got and it's not a text that he sends, the Apple app automatically sent it, so it detected the crash and sent me that text.
His phone immediately notified his emergency contacts and automatically called 911.
You know, my phone, to my knowledge, was the first phone call that 911 had received.
His injuries could have turned deadly if it wasn't for the quick response of first responders who got the call seconds after the crash.
And the response time, since they got there so fast, they got him there enough to treat him and keep him calm and put him on the meds he needed to make sure his blood pressure stayed low, his heart rate stayed low so it didn't burst. And they told me only 2% of people even make it to the hospital. Most people die instantly.
Michael had open heart surgery. He was in the ICU for 5 weeks. 3 of those weeks he was unconscious.
Despite this, I'm actually doing pretty good.
The past few months have been full of doctor's appointments and awareness about the iPhone feature.
Settings, and then scroll down to the emergency SOS, and then call after severe crash, and then set your emergency contacts.
That was Fox 10's Lindsay Ragas reporting. The crash detection feature is available on the iPhone 14 and 15 models, but the phone's software must be updated to iOS version 16 or later. In Hawaii, rescue teams saved a dog that was stuck in a storm drain. A 2-year-old pit bull was on a walk with her owner when she saw a chicken and chased after it and then fell into an open storm drain. Firefighters in the Hawaiian Humane Society responded, spending about 4 hours to rescue the dog and reunite her with her family. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. That does it for us on West Coast Wrap. Hope you have a great night.